Recalling again from the previous unit, anytime you're given a table of values, you're given the input-output of a function. In these two tables, we're given f of x and g of x, and we're asked to find each of the following. This symbol is a composite. With a composite, what this means is f of g of x is equal to f of g of x. So this means f of g of 2. So I need to know what is g of 2. So I go to g of 2, it's equal to 3. So I'm really finding f of 3. So f of 3 is 9. The same thing in b. Well, f of g of 1 means f of g of 1. So I find g of 1 is 9. So I'm finding f of 9. F of 9 is 6. In the next one, I'm finding f of g of 9. So I find g of 9, which is 12, and I'm looking for f of 12. F of 12 is 5. In the next one, I'm finding f of g of 5. G of 5 is 6, so I'm finding f of 6, and f of 6 is 7. In E through H, you're composing f into g, so this becomes g of f of 6. So now I need to find f of 6 first. So I'm finding g of 7. G of 7 is 4. In f, I'm finding f of g of 7. So I find g of 7 is 4, so I'm finding f of 4, and f of 4 is negative 3. G of f of 12. So I find f of 12 to be 5, and I'm looking for g of 5. G of 5 is 6. And in the last one, I'm finding g of f of 3. So f of 3 is 9, and I'm finding g of 9. G of 9 is 12. We are working with the graph of a function, but it behaves the same way. So this first graph is f, this line is g. You're finding f plus g of 2. So I need to know, what is f of 2? What is f when x equals 2? Well, it's 2. What is g when x equals 2? It's 1. So f plus g of 2 is 3. What is f when x is negative 6? It's 4. Minus, what is g when x is negative 6? It's negative 5. So f minus g of negative 6 is 9. What is f when x equals negative 2? It's negative 4. What is g when x equals negative 2? It's negative 3. So f times g of negative 2 is 12. What is f when x equals 6? It's negative 2. What is g when x is 6? It's 1. So f divided by g of 6 is negative 2. This means f of g of 0. So what is g when x is 0? It's negative 2. So I'm looking for f of negative 2. What is f when x is negative 2? It's negative 4. So f of g of 0 is equal to negative 4. We're finding g of f of 6. This is g of f of 6. Well, what is f when x is 6? It's negative 2, so I'm finding g of negative 2. What is g when x is negative 2? Is negative 3. So g of f of 6 is equal to negative 3. Algebraically, when we look for compositions, we're doing the same thing. F of g of 2. I need to find g of 2, so I start there. G of 2 is negative 3 times 2 squared plus 7 times 2 minus 5 when I replace all my x's and g with 2. So g of 2 is equal to negative 3 times 4 is negative 12 plus 14 minus 5. G of 2 is equal to negative 3. So now I'm looking for f of negative 3. So 2 times negative 3 minus 5. F of negative 3 is negative 6. And f of negative 3 is the same as f of g of 2, which is negative 11. In B, you're finding g of f of negative 1. So I need to find f of negative 1, which will be 2 times negative 1 minus 5. So f of negative 1 is negative 2 minus 5, and f of negative 1 is negative 7. So I need to find g of negative 7. So this will be negative 3 times negative 7 squared plus 7 times negative 7 minus 5. So g of negative 7 is, this will be negative 3 times 49. That's going to give me negative 147 minus 49 minus 5. So g of negative 7 is equal to negative 201. And g of negative 7 is the same as g of f of negative 1. So my answer is negative 201. In C, we're finding f of negative 4. So I need to find f of negative 4. That's 2 times negative 4 minus 5. So f of negative 4 is negative 8 minus 5 is negative 13. And then I find f of negative 13, which is 2 times negative 13 minus 5. So f of negative 13 is negative 26 minus 5, or negative 31. And in the last one, I'm finding g of negative 2. So I need to start by finding g of negative 2. So this will be negative 3 times negative 2 squared plus 7 times negative 2 minus 5. So this is g of negative 2 is negative 3 times 4 is negative 12 minus 14 minus 5. So this is negative 26 minus 5. G of negative 2 is negative 31. So now I'm finding g of negative 31. So this will be negative 3 times negative 31 squared plus 7 times negative 31 minus 5. And this gives me g of negative 31 is negative 3,105.